Tonight, a St. Charles buffet is shut down after federal agents raided the restaurant and a nearby home.
And today we learned 2 people were charged in connection to this.
Not far from Interstate 70 near the Cave Springs exit is a restaurant so popular, people have been constantly pulling up while we've been here, including these folks here, surprised that federal agents raided Golden Apple Buffet here in St. Peters off Mexico Road Tuesday.
Before dawn broke over St. Charles County, the quiet hum of suburbia was shattered. Federal agents swept into a popular buffet off Mexico Road, a place where families once gathered for weekend meals, now sealed off with flashing lights and yellow tape. To most, it was just another restaurant, another small-town fixture along Interstate 70. But investigators say what simmered behind those kitchen doors was far from ordinary. For years, the neighborhoods of St. Peters, Missouri appeared ordinary. Rows of trimmed lawns, bicycles rattling down sidewalks, and porch lights glowing at dusk. Life moved quietly, predictably. Yet beneath that stillness, there were signs that something didn't quite fit. Vans appeared at odd hours, headlights slicing through the night as they dropped off silent passengers. Curtains never opened, doors rarely swung wide, and the laughter of children was replaced by a hush that seemed deliberately maintained. Rumors of crowded living spaces trickled through the community, but most neighbors shrugged it off. It wasn't their business, until one morning, everything changed. Just after sunrise, the calm broke. Federal agents in dark jackets stormed a modest house tucked into an otherwise peaceful street. What looked like a typical family home quickly revealed a hidden reality. Inside were nearly 20 workers, sleeping shoulder to shoulder in tight quarters, their belongings stacked in corners, their lives stripped down to necessity. It wasn't a home, it was a dormitory in disguise. And every day, these men and women were ferried in vans to a restaurant just a few miles away, where the clang of dishes and the hiss of frying pans concealed a truth no customer ever suspected. Neighbors watched in disbelief as the raid unfolded. One moment, the house seemed just another quiet dwelling. The next, its occupants were being led out in handcuffs, their faces pale, eyes darting in fear. For some, it was the first time they had ever been seen by those living just across the street. What had once been hidden behind drawn blinds spilled suddenly into the open. The questions came quickly, carried on whispers that spread through the block like wildfire. Who ran this operation? Were these workers victims or conspirators? And how deep did the roots of this network go? What investigators uncovered that day was more than overcrowding. It was the loose thread of a far larger tapestry, one woven with fraudulent identities, shadow money transfers, and connections reaching far beyond the Missouri suburbs. What appeared at first glance to be an immigration case hinted instead at something more insidious, a machinery of exploitation humming quietly beneath everyday American life. The raid was only the beginning, and as agents turned their attention from the home to the bustling buffet down the road, the shadows only deepened, promising revelations darker than anyone could have imagined. What agents uncovered inside the Golden Apple Buffet shattered any notion of a routine raid. This was not a matter of expired visas or forged work permits hastily copied in the back room. Beneath the clatter of plates and the scent of fried noodles, investigators discovered something far more insidious. Hidden compartments beneath kitchen tiles and freezer units revealed stacks of counterfeit passports, driver's licenses polished to near perfection, and narcotics concealed in cartons, stamped with ordinary food labels. The revelation shifted the narrative overnight. What the community had long believed to be just another neighborhood buffet was exposed as the hub of a clandestine network. Each forged document was more than paper. It was an entry ticket into a shadow economy where identities were traded like currency, where loopholes in the system were exploited with unnerving precision. These were not sloppy forgeries destined to collapse under scrutiny. They were engineered to endure, sliding seamlessly through bureaucratic cracks, vanishing into databases without raising alarms. The deeper authorities dug, the broader the web became. Connections stretched across state lines and oceans alike, linking safe houses in Houston to storefronts in Beijing, tracing money trails that flowed as effortlessly as the dishes served across the buffet line. The true question was no longer who staffed the kitchen, but who orchestrated the entire operation from the shadows. For residents, the truth was staggering. The place where families once celebrated birthdays and shared Sunday dinners was not simply hiding undocumented workers, it was concealing an empire of deception, thriving in plain sight. And if a small-town restaurant could disguise such a system, how many others across the country were quietly feeding the same machinery, waiting to be unmasked? If this story gripped you, make sure to like and share this video so more people can uncover the truth hidden behind the headlines. What unfolded in Missouri was not an isolated spectacle. It was one piece of a larger puzzle, a carefully orchestrated campaign known as Operation Silent Dragon. The name itself carried weight, suggesting something hidden, patient, and lethal. This was not just immigration enforcement. It was a full-scale assault on a machine that had embedded itself into the fabric of American life. From the neon glow of Los Angeles karaoke bars to the dim corners of New York nightclubs, federal agents burst through doors, finding more than music and laughter inside. Behind the curtains and velvet booths, investigators uncovered ledgers of laundered cash, rooms of undocumented workers, and drugs hidden in places no ordinary patron would think to look. Even massage parlors, long whispered about in rumor, became crime scenes, each raid peeling back another layer of the same operation. The strategy was coordinated, ruthless, and relentless. Officials knew this was bigger than overstayed visas or counterfeit IDs. This was about a pipeline of power and profit. Smugglers trafficked vulnerable workers, cartels moved narcotics with precision, and shadow banks circulated millions monthly, charging quiet fees while fueling addiction and corruption. What startled many was how seamlessly these worlds overlapped. A family buffet in Missouri, a karaoke lounge in California, a warehouse in New York, all tied together by threads that stretched across oceans. The machinery was not only feeding an overdose crisis, but also creating an endless cycle of debt and dependency, trapping workers in silence while enriching networks few dared to challenge. Operation Silent Dragon was not simply a crackdown. It was a revelation. Each raid was another jolt to the public, a reminder that behind ordinary storefronts and familiar neon signs, an empire of crime thrived in plain view. And the deeper the agents pushed, the darker the connections became. In the chaos of flashing lights and pounding fists on doors, not everyone dragged into the vans wore the face of a criminal mastermind. Many of those swept up in the raids were men and women living under the weight of crushing debts, debts owed to smugglers who promised opportunity but delivered captivity. These workers toiled in kitchens and clubs for wages that barely covered food, let alone the mounting sums demanded by those who brought them across oceans. Their lives were a cycle of labor and fear, bound not by loyalty to any cartel, but by desperation and silence. To see all of these people here crossing from Central Asia, from China, from Turkey, from all over the world, when we're used to seeing border crossers here, Central Americans, Mexicans trying to avoid the border patrol. Immigration advocates were quick to point out the cracks in the narrative. They warned that in the rush to make arrests, innocent families were being torn apart. Parents vanished overnight, leaving children bewildered. Husbands and wives were separated in seconds, their fates sealed not by crime, but by circumstance. To critics, the raids looked less like precision strikes and more like blunt force sweeps, where nuance was lost and humanity ignored. Where are you from? India, India, China, 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 China. The image that lingered most was from California, a man pinned violently against a wall by plainclothes agents, his cries echoing through the street as bystanders filmed in horror. For some, it was undeniable proof of overreach. a symbol of ordinary laborers being crushed beneath the weight of an enforcement storm far larger than themselves. Yet, in the same breath, officials insisted the real targets were smugglers, traffickers, and shadow bankers, the villains profiting in silence while workers bore the punishment. It was a cruel paradox. The people most visible in handcuffs were often the least powerful, while those orchestrating the empire from safe houses and overseas offices remained hidden in the shadows. In the hunt for villains, the line between victim and perpetrator blurred until it nearly disappeared. Markets that once thrived on loyal customers reported losses of nearly 50%. Fear, more than federal charges, hollowed them out. Some shops locked their doors for good, their signs fading under layers of dust, while family legacies built over generations vanished in silence. For the businesses that remained, unease clung to every corner. A knock on the back door sent a jolt through kitchens. Workers could no longer tell the difference between a delivery truck and an immigration van. Conversations dropped to whispers, and even those were heavy with suspicion. Trust frayed, not just between immigrant communities and authorities, but within the neighborhoods themselves. The raids stretched beyond storefronts. They struck homes, schools, even churches. Families were torn apart in minutes. Parents vanished overnight. Children left bewildered. Buses filled with detainees rolled away, carrying some accused of trafficking or violent crimes, but others whose only offense was overstaying a visa or working without authorization. To neighbors, the lines blurred. Justice and punishment seemed indistinguishable. Supporters of the crackdown hailed it as overdue, pointing to convictions tied to smuggling and corruption. Yet critics warned of a deeper cost. Entire communities painted with the same brush as criminals and foreign agents. Fear became collective, suspicion aimed broadly rather than precisely. The divide left Chinatowns gutted, both financially and emotionally. What had once been vibrant sanctuaries of culture now felt like fragile targets. And as raids widened, a single question haunted the silence. How much could truly be dismantled in the name of protection before communities themselves were erased under the weight of fear? What started as a dawn raid at a quiet Missouri buffet has spiraled into a storm stretching coast to coast. Behind every arrest lies the question no one can escape. Is America uncovering hidden threats or unraveling its own communities in the process? For every network dismantled, trust fractures deeper, leaving fear to spread faster than any crime. And yet, whispers suggest the story isn't over, that the next raid may expose something even darker, something no one is prepared to face. Stay with us, and don't forget to like and subscribe, because the truth is only just beginning to surface.